Should girls play sports with boys? I'm not really sure why I did a British accent. In fact, today I can only do a British accent, mainly because I'm staying with Brits a lot. God. But in the end, so this is the same thing. Should girls play sports with boys? But in the end, of course, I'm always going to try to go ahead and go back to my own little accent I made myself. People sometimes call it American. Others say that it doesn't sound Asian accent, but it doesn't really sound British or Australian as well too. So they're kind of stuck on what kind of accent they should hear because they expect an accent, but they hear an accent that, well, they definitely didn't expect at all. Well, should girls go ahead and play sports with boys though? Well, that is something for you to decide, man. Alright, let's start off with this. The bodies of boys and girls are very different when they're kids, which means that it's very safe and fair for them to go ahead and play together. And, well, these relationships, lots of people will go ahead and shun down on, not just the boys and girls, their fellow boys and girl peers, but also their parents. Not a great start, people. But in the end, though, there is something else that we can go ahead and mention here. Let's start off with that second point of the pros team later. Let's start off with the first point of the cons team. The differences between men's and women's bodies will make playing some sports together very unsafe and very unfair when they grow up, and separation keeps this from becoming an issue. Yeah, this is... I'm just gonna have to explain this no matter what. Little kids will be watching this, and they will not understand until they're old enough. But I say they're old enough. I mean, I was taught all this when I was 6. What did you expect? Men grow up. In fact, I pretty much had my growth spurt and I'm starting to grow taller than my mother. That should have happened years ago. Women will have an area of their chest bloated up. And men will probably have their voices deepened down. Or maybe, if they're lucky enough, stay the same, which is really good for singers. If you're aspiring to be a singer and you have a really deep voice, you pretty much have only one choice: choir music. Like the ones in the church. However, if you somehow keep the same amount of your tone, or it just keeps soft, like the same as a woman's, well then you can go ahead and, like, okay, not like a woman's, like a child's, well then you can go ahead and still be able to sing a lot as well too. Also, I probably shouldn't say like a child, mainly because they sound like this, but what you really want is something like, whoa, something like that. Yeah, I'm a musician, what did you expect? I'm Asian. Time for the second point of the pros team. Now, girls and boys go ahead and play sports together. Teaches them lessons about equality and respect. And gender equality is part of the UN SDGs anyway. So you can go ahead and put that into your list when you go ahead and mix the girls and the boys together. In fact, there are sports that go ahead and sometimes require all this, like shooting, archery. Although traditionally women are better at archery and men are sometimes, well, more traditionally, there are more men shooters that are very accurate than women shooters. Also, women are usually the ones that are top of their class. Why is that? And yeah, there's nothing I can say about that. But equality and respect are two important traits that little kids need to learn until they turn into adults, or else they'll turn into like someone who has blonde hair and said a bunch of weird and controversial stuff, has a tower named after him, and very American, calls himself the most American person ever, really loves McDonald's, KFC, pretty much any fast food chain, create a bunch of tariffs, and, well, MAGA, make America great again. I'm not a big supporter of him, so do not tell him that. I am not in America, so I can say this freely. That is until I go to America. That's when I have to watch out. But then again, lots of Americans go ahead and voice their doubts too. Let's go back onto track with this. Should girls go ahead and play sports with boys? Now, let's start off with the second point of the cons team. Now, these guys go ahead and say that girls can be bullied by kids for parents for playing on boys' teams. And when you go ahead and do all that, you go ahead and realize that, well, being bullied by kids and parents for playing on boys' teams, that's not okay. Okay, by your peers, that's understandable or questionable. But if it's parents, well then that is very not right, because they're adults, they should know better. And now it's time for the third point of the pros team. Now these guys go ahead and mean business. They say that playing sports with boys goes ahead and gives girls confidence, and I do have to admit this is usually what happens. Also, some girls that I've seen, most of the girls, in fact all the girls I've seen that play sports with boys, go ahead and either two of these things. They're like, they don't really care a bit, or two, they're just really very uncomfortable. the ones that are uncomfortable are always the ones that go ahead and sing, that really want to separate each other, and the ones that are go ahead and are like they don't care. Well, they already have confidence. They created it before all this happened. And yeah, now for the third point of the cons team, this goes ahead and says that playing sports with boys can be very lonely for girls. Because traditionally there are less girls in sports than men are. As a result, girls are usually like either the only one or one of the few people playing sports in the schools. Although that number is starting to go up. And now for the fourth point of the pros team is that girls and boys already are taught not to mix, traditionally wise. And this tradition is upholded even when parents don't try to teach them that. It just happens because other kids act like that. And girls and boys already are taught not to mix, separating them will just go ahead and make this worse, which really makes a bunch of skits and memes on the internet. And now for the fourth point of the cons team is that girls and boys are different and usually do not mix well with each other. Now, this was one of the most stereotypical ones. This was created by a jailbreak to ChatGPT on poll.com. Do not search my search history. As a result, well, playing sports, boys with girls, well, and girls with boys, vice versa, isn't not usually going to happen. In an alternate reality, when like girls are the dominant species, let's say that dominant gender, and boys are like the ones who were said, "You're a boy, you shouldn't be able to do that." Well, this is going to be quite weird, because I'm pretty sure if let's just say that the boys still retain their growth spurts. Yeah, I cannot imagine that right now. I hope to see you guys soon, but until next time, peace. Bye bye.